Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And
okay,
again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to our Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss, here, of course, with Russell Dobular.
Willkommen, Aaron and Diamond.
There you go. Microphone sounds perfect. Perfect sound.
Perfect.
Look at that. No
Perfect
distortion, no clipping, perfect volume. Very good. Off to an excellent start this evening. Thank you guys very much for being here. 5:55 in the YouTube chat to start the evening. 2:05 over on Rumble. That's what we love to see. Thank you all for being here. Please hit that like button wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. Great pleasure to be here with you all this evening. Lots to talk about. Big week for us. We are going, what is it, six shows in a row? 6 days in a row. We had the show Sunday. We had Jimmy Dore on Monday. We got a surprise invite to guest to co-host on Monday.
Is that Monday? Oh,
yeah.
Man. The days
and we did
are blurring.
Post-Duopoly yesterday. Then we got tonight. Yep. Tomorrow, folks, we are doing our patron exclusive supporter stream at 10 a.m. We had to reschedule that. So those who are patrons, locals, members, and paid substackers know that Rumble had a widespread outage yesterday afternoon, which coincided with what should have been our patron-only live stream. And so we had to reschedule that, and we did for Thursday, tomorrow at 10 a.m., bright and early, double morning due this week, 10 a.m. Thursday. And then program note, we will be live at 2 p.m. on Friday, not the usual 9 a.m. show on Friday, the 2 p.m. show, because Friday is my 37th birthday, and I will be here with you guys to celebrate in style with the Dissident crew. But my wife Amanda planned an evening before my birthday, the night before, leading into it, so I'm not going to have a chance to prep on Thursday night, and so we will prep that show tonight after the program and put the finishing touches on it on Friday morning. So just a schedule note, 10 a.m. tomorrow for patrons, our supporter stream. We apologize very much to our patrons for having to cancel a show. We hate having to do that. There was nothing we could do. It was a widespread Rumble outage. They say it was because of a cyber attack. I have no reason to doubt that, but they are back up for now. And we did come up with a fail-safe in case that happens again, which we will explain a little bit later in the show. So either way, come hell or high water, tomorrow, 10 a.m. on Rumble for patrons, paid substackers, and paid locals members. And 2 p.m. Friday, not 9 a.m. So those are the schedule changes. Beautiful. Look at that. Look at that.
We are there.
We are there.
Yeah, man. If that wasn't the Mossad, I got a bridge to sell you. Those motherfuckers.
Yeah. I mean, that was something. It was down everywhere. And they announced that they were down at like 11 a.m. And we had the show at 2. And there have been Rumble outages before, but they've never lasted, to my knowledge, at least.
No,
and I followed pretty closely.
That was a serious attack.
They never lasted more than like 10 or 15 minutes in the past. So I figured, all right, we'll be fine. But no, that was something bigger.
Yeah, we're going to be covering later on that a lot of creators and a lot of just normal people posting have been saying they get shadow banned on most of the platforms. So Rumble is a very obvious target. Because X, it depends on what side of the bed Elon got up on that morning. And, he did fillet Netanyahu for the cameras. I believe that's going to be released on Pornhub next month. The uncut footage of that meeting. Right in the man-on-man section. But Rumble is the only one that is reliably not going to ban anyone, not going to repress anyone, not going to kiss Israel's ass. So, you look at who has the means and the motive, it definitely points in that direction.
Yeah, and it was down for most of the day. It came up that evening, thankfully, but it was down for most of the day. So we will have more word on that show a little bit later. Some breaking news. This is not part of our segments tonight, but this is breaking news. House approves Biden impeachment inquiry as GOP hunts for an offense. It's a little New York Times editorializing there. Republicans pushing
the Washington
forward.
Post did the same thing.
Yeah, with a formal investigation, even though their year-long scrutiny of the president and his family has turned up no evidence of high crimes or misdemeanors. The House voted Wednesday to formally open an impeachment inquiry into President Biden, pushing forward with a year-long GOP investigation that has failed to produce evidence of anything approaching high crimes or misdemeanors. Well, we'll get to this in just a moment because we are going to talk about Hunter Biden in just a minute, but that is some breaking news there. 789 over in the YouTube chat, 273 in the Rumble chat. So thank you guys all for filing in. I think we got all our housekeeping out of the way, right? Nothing else. We could start the insanity.
I believe so.
All right. Well, let's start the insanity. As we do this broadcast live at 8:15 p.m. on the East Coast, Wednesday, December 13th, the House just moments ago passed a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. That was just hours after his son Hunter was due to testify at a closed-door deposition. He showed up to Washington, D.C., but rather than go and do the deposition, he held a surprise press conference outside of the Capitol in very defiant mood here, basically saying that he's not willing to testify privately. He will only do so publicly, and takes his shots at the GOP opposition. So let's hear Hunter. This was hours ago today.
I am first and foremost a son, a father, a brother, and a husband from a loving and supportive family. I'm proud to have earned degrees from Georgetown University and Yale Law School. I'm proud of my
Where
legal
I picked
career,
up a hell of a case of the clap.
business career.
But that's cleared up
I'm
now.
proud of my time serving on a dozen different boards of directors. And I'm proud of my efforts to forge global business relationships.
By that, I mean my prodigious
For 6
use
years,
of escort services.
MAGA Republicans.
I love that. I am proud to have forged global business relationships. Really doubling down on the, hey, my name had nothing to do with me getting that job. I just happen to be an expert on forging global business relationships. And
Right.
I'm very proud of my record and service.
Well, that's the whole point of this. He's laying out his degrees to create a patina of credibility to his business career.
Exactly.
As if he's an accomplished guy who just did a little blow and, had a weakness for the women of the evening.
Including members of the House committees who are in a closed-door session right now, have impugned my character, invaded my privacy, attacked my wife, my children,
Is that
my
his brother's
family,
wife, or is that a
and my
different one?
friends.
I don't know.
They have ridiculed my struggle with addiction. They belittled my recovery, and they have tried to dehumanize me, all to embarrass and damage my father, who has devoted his entire public life to service.
And by service, I mean devoted most of his public life, or at least a good portion of his public life, to dehumanizing drug addicts and locking them in jail. That's why there's not a lot of sympathy for him. I mean, I don't have any hatred for this guy, but given the circumstances, isn't it ironic? to have this ne'er-do-well son who is on camera doing things that Joe Biden would lock you in jail for 10 to 20 years for doing, right? That was the whole crack cocaine versus powder cocaine sentencing disparity that was part of that crime bill. That's why there's not much sympathy for Hunter. I don't have a hard-on for Hunter the way a lot of people do. This whole story is kind of boring to me, except for the political intrigue aspect of it. I really don't care much about his personal life. But the fact that he is defying the subpoena is potentially significant. But we have a few seconds here, so I'll let this play out.
For 6 years, I have been the target of the unrelenting Trump attack machine, shouting, "Where's Hunter?" Well, here's my answer. I am here.
You're here. You're outside, but you're supposed to be inside doing the deposition. So we got one more video to play, and then we'll talk about this a little bit. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene after Hunter skipped out on the deposition and instead set the cameras up outside.
Follow the process for contempt of Congress, which absolutely should be done. Hunter Biden refusing to show up today is unacceptable. President Trump's own children sat for hours and hours, 7, 8, 9 hours each of them, in front of Democrat-led committees. Why is it a double standard for the Biden family? Hunter Biden clearly is trying to hide and cover up the money laundering and the abuse of power that he and his father are guilty of by not refusing to show up today, as well as Mann Act violations, which I had specific questions for him on those issues that we have evidence on.
What do you make of this press conference he had outside the front of the Capitol and then just not coming across the street to your committee?
Oh, I mean, he's obviously guilty. He went out there in front of the press and spread all of his lies, but he wouldn't come in here under oath. That's someone that is clearly trying to hide the truth from the American people. We were even willing to bring cameras in here for him today, but he refused to show up. He went out and played the show in front of the circus and then refused to come in here and follow the law, which he absolutely should do. And there should not be a double standard between the Biden family and the Trump family, but there clearly is. Hunter Biden thinks he's above the law, and apparently Joe Biden thinks so too.
So obviously, much of the dispute is that Hunter wants to testify in public, not in private. Now, to me, the problem with that theory is that Hunter can tell his side of the story to whoever he wants to, right? I mean, there's nothing stopping Hunter Biden. God bless you. There's nothing stopping Hunter Biden from sitting down for an interview with even a hostile interviewer, right? Go on Fox News if you want to hash this out in public, right? If you want to take hostile incoming and be able to, swat down these Republican trolls, I mean, you can tell your story. He's not under a gag order to my knowledge, right? So why not do that? I was talking to let's say a lawyer. I can't say who they are because I don't want to get them in trouble with their lawyer job. But I was talking to a lawyer this afternoon about this, and the lawyer said, every small delay in the process, like when you do a thing like this, skipping a deposition and gumming up the works, every small delay is in service of a larger delay, right? You're just stonewalling. And whether they're stonewalling until the end of the primary calendar to make sure that this can't blow up in the president's face while there's still time to swap him out, that could be something. They may be trying to stonewall for a whole year until after November 2024. But they said whenever you have someone who's on the receiving end of a lawsuit or a criminal investigation, whenever they delay, they're delaying in order to delay more. Delays beget more delays, and that's the point. So he put on this surprise press conference here, but these are exactly. But this is a stall tactic in service of what? I'd be impossible to say for sure, I guess, but that's the way it looks to me.
Well, it's also a battle for control of the narrative. This is a plea to all the MSNBC libs to rally around Hunter. Look at the injustice that's been done. And obviously, if you attached the fact pattern of the Biden family to the Trump family, they would see the corruption very quickly.
It's about as obvious as anything.
Sure, and it's a lot more obvious than things they are still hopping up and down about regarding the Trump family. There is much more clear evidence of real impactful criminality of a type that is truly impactful to the nation's foreign policy than there ever was with the Trump family. Is the Trump family corrupt? Sure. Nancy Pelosi outperforms all the world's greatest investors every single year without fail. So you don't give a fuck about corruption. If you did, you'd be locking up Nancy Pelosi, and that's very obvious to people. You opened up this door, and when you say that, they'll say, but he was corrupt. Yeah, you don't care about corruption. If you really cared about it, there are a lot of people you'd go after on your own team, which you don't. So it was never about corruption with Trump. That's not the reason that you went after Trump. You weaponized the justice system. You broke that gentleman's agreement. You broke the agreement between the two parties. Hey, listen, I'm not going to tell anybody I saw you here. You don't tell anybody you saw me here, all right? And we don't go in that direction. You went in that direction. You opened the door now. If you hadn't done that to Trump, would they be doing this? Maybe. I think it's a lot less likely.
I think it's a lot less likely, too. It's a lot less likely. And as you said, this corruption does have a huge impact on the foreign policy of the country. When I say I have no hatred for Hunter, I mean, I don't pass judgment on the crack and the hookers or whatever. Not that I would necessarily condone it, but whatever. It's not, I'm not morally outraged over that. The influence peddling in a country like, I don't know, Ukraine? Yeah, that's a big problem. That's a big problem, of course. He sat on an energy board of a country. His salary was cut in half after Joe Biden retired from the vice presidency. Big red flag, cut in half when your father's no longer vice president. And who's the big guy in these years? 10% for the big guy. Hunter, if you want to tell your side of the story, if you don't want to do this in private, which, by the way, it's standard practice, according to my lawyer contact, that the deposition be in private and then the trial, the testimony, the hearings, those are public. But as a first step, the deposition's almost always in private. Now, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene, we just saw in that video, they were prepared for him to bring the cameras in anyway. I assume they would have just gone through with it if he did that.
That just blows that away.
Right, that just blows that away.
They're trying to make the claim, well, he was afraid they would leak things out of context. Well, okay, if they were willing to put cameras in there, then that's no excuse. Now,
also, you have a transcription. A deposition, there's a transcriber there, unless that person's in on it, too. I mean, now you're getting into ridiculous paranoid territory.
No, this is for the MSNBC libs. This is for them. What do you think their reaction was to this? They're all sitting around tonight watching Chris Hayes, who they all wish were their grandson.
Oh, yeah, Chris, you tell him, Hunter, you don't take any shit from these people. That's right. They didn't care about corruption with Trump. They didn't care.
That's it. That's who this is for. And you're right. They're trying to gum it up legally, but they're also trying to gum it up PR-wise. This is like that was clearly crafted by smarter people than Hunter to try to get control of the narrative around this, to try to frame it with their remaining supporters as just the Republicans on a fishing expedition. Nothing to see here. Yeah, 10% for the big guy.
Why didn't you tell us who the big guy was at that press conference? Just say who it was. If it wasn't your dad, say it. Say who it is. Nobody's stopping you.
No. Having the crackhead son of the vice president serving on an energy board that he has no qualifications to serve on, and that's what they're trying to undermine. That's why he laid out the places he's graduated from. That's not impressive. You're a fucking nepo baby. Where did Trump graduate from? Wharton? You think he legit graduated from Wharton? Donald Trump, you think he actually wrote papers and took tests that qualified him to that degree? You're a fucking nepo baby, man. They fucking you probably didn't even have to show up to get that degree.
Right. Exactly. Alrighty. Let's take a couple of super chats here. This account is pending review. That's a funny screen name. In 100 years, the Jews will say Europe gave us the Nazi and we could not stop them. Then Europe made us the Nazi. Yeah, and we did not stop them. Good one. Abiding 71. Thanks for the 99-cent super sticker, my friend. We appreciate that very much. Let's have a round of applause for Jake, our producer, in the house, field and rumble rants, and we got super chats. So thank you guys all very much for your support. 11:59 here on YouTube now. 476 of you lovely folks over on Rumble. Hit that like button wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button wherever you are. You may have noticed we hit 25,000 subscribers. Cheers! Thank you guys very much for your help in getting us there. We appreciate that. Let's move on to segment number 2 because this is related, in part at least, to the Hunter Biden story. Volodymyr Zelensky, remember that guy? He came to Washington, D.C. This week, and he warns, warns of Christmas gift to Putin as GOP shrugs off Zelensky visit. Zelensky basically called the Republicans Putin puppets. Zelensky's basically calling the Republicans Putin puppets now. He's going to have one of the pink hats next time he comes to Washington, D.C. to ask for money. Have Pussy Hat Zelensky. That would be a good character. Bands off our bodies. More money for fight Russian. In this house, we believe love is love. Climate change is real.
I know
Black Lives Matter, and I need money.
I know Israel having a hard time now, but not funny jokes sending Hanukkah geld. We thought this was, we tried to buy armaments, people start eating chocolate and laughing
We
at
say
us.
we have gold, we open it up, it's chocolate. Very funny. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's disappointing visit to Capitol Hill confirmed his worst fears. The future of U.S. aid to Ukraine has become firmly affixed to one of the most intractable debates in American politics. Why it matters, even Republicans sympathetic to the Ukrainian cause, with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, chief among them, have drawn a red line. There will be no further aid to Ukraine if Democrats do not agree to substantial changes to U.S. border policy. McConnell told reporters it would be practically impossible for Congress to resolve the standoff before the holidays, punting the fate of Ukraine aid and the border into next year. That didn't stop President Biden from demanding that Republicans pass an aid package, quote, before they give Putin the greatest Christmas gift they could possibly give him. What they're saying. Russian loyalists in Moscow celebrated when Republicans voted to block Ukraine's aid last week, Biden said in a joint press conference.
You mean like
with Zelensky.
most of the Russian public? Is that who you mean? By
Right,
Russian
yeah,
loyalists?
Russian loyalists in Moscow. Yeah, exactly.
You mean like Russians?
Yeah, like the Russian people, yeah. If you're being celebrated by Russian propagandists, it might be the time to rethink what you're doing. Again, those Russian propagandists are mostly the, I would say, the citizenry, right? Driving the news. Zelensky's plea to support Ukrainians fighting for their freedom, an emotional and strategic appeal that has helped unlock major progress in the past, ran into a wall of sympathetic shrugs in Congress. I told President Zelensky, here's the problem. It's got nothing to do with you, said Senator Lindsey Graham.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not you, it's me. I'm not sure that's the consolation he was looking for. Hey, listen, it's nothing personal. There's just another war that we care more about, you know. House Speaker Mike Johnson said he told Zelensky, we stand with him and against Putin's brutal invasion, but stressed our first condition on any national security supplemental spending package is about our own national security. What does he mean by that? Well, here's the next quote. We're hearing from the president of Ukraine again, but we're yet to hear from our own president about the border. Our border, said Senator Eric Schmidt. So how... Get your hand out of my How is Joe Biden going to get out of this? He's got a real problem on his hands because he needs that funding for Ukraine, but the Republicans aren't going to give it to him unless he gets tougher on the border. So, here's what he will do. White House open to new border expulsion law and mandatory detention and increased deportations in talks with Congress. The Biden administration on Tuesday indicated to congressional lawmakers that it would be willing to support a new border authority to expel migrants without asylum screenings, as well as a dramatic expansion of immigration, detention, and deportations to convince Republicans to back aid to Ukraine. 4 people familiar with the matter told CBS News. The White House informed Senate Democrats that it could back those sweeping and hardline immigration policy changes as part of the negotiations over President Biden's emergency funding request, a roughly $100 billion package that includes military aid to Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine, as well as money to bolster border enforcement and hire additional immigration officials. Specifically, the White House indicated that it would support a new far-reaching legal authority to allow U.S. border officials to summarily expel migrants without processing their asylum claims. The measure would effectively revive the Trump-era Title 42 pandemic order and allow officials to pause U.S. asylum law without a public health justification. The administration would also back a nationwide expansion of a process known as expedited removal that allows immigration officials to deport migrants without court hearings if they don't ask for asylum or if they fail their initial asylum interviews. The program is currently limited to the border region. Moreover, the White House would be willing to mandate the detention of certain migrants who are allowed into the country pending the adjudication of their claims. It's unclear how this provision would work since the U.S. government has never had the detention space to detain all migrants who cross into the country illegally. That's why they had to build more detention facilities when Biden took office. Last slide. Administration officials and some Senate Democrats have also previously indicated a willingness to raise the initial screening standard for so-called credible fear interviews that migrants have to pass to avoid being deported under expedited removal. In a statement, White House spokesperson Angelo Hernandez said the administration did not have determined policy positions in the congressional negotiations, and later on in the piece, the administration's openness to negotiate restrictive immigration changes with Republicans has angered migrant advocates, progressive Democrats, and Latino lawmakers who have urged the White House and Senate Democrats to refrain from agreeing to permanent asylum restrictions. Quote, destroying the asylum system will not fix the southern border, Democratic Representative Pramila Jayapal said Tuesday. We did not spend years fighting this agenda under Trump only to give in to Senate Republicans' extreme demands now. Well, apparently you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah, apparently that's exactly what you did. File this under can't make that shit up. All that hand-wringing, all of that demonizing against Trump for his draconian, Hitler-esque border policies. Look at what we're doing. AOC goes down to the border and cries at the fence. We see the pictures, horrible pictures of, that there was that one picture that went viral, the father and the little girl who drowned because they were turned away. That you couldn't unsee that picture on MSNBC for a week after it happened. And now they're going to give him, seems like, all the Trump policies back and more, not to pass universal health care, not to get a $15 minimum wage. No, to get more funding for World War III, just as World War III is about to run out. You talk about one of the most obscene political bargains imaginable at this moment. To say, well, the one good thing that was going on, the one positive in the world, is that at least maybe we avoided nuclear war on the Eastern European front, and the two parties are going to come to their senses and negotiate some kind of peace because we don't have the money to give them anymore, and there's been a sort of isolationist anti-war takeover of the Republican Party, and it seemed like they were going to force this issue and end this war. And then you have Biden go and say, how about we give you all the Trump policies times 10 in exchange to funding World War III? It seems like that's the play now. I mean, we'll see if it happens. But the fact that they're talking like that, that's just incredible.
Yeah, well, Biden, he called around to a lot of the Latino leaders that supported his election. We have some leaked audio from that.
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
So that's, he just came right out and said it right there. Yeah, this really tells you what the bottom line is in Washington, doesn't it? When it comes down to it, the military-industrial complex are the people you cannot fuck with. That's it. They will give the Republicans anything to not fuck with the MIC. And the Republicans, this is all of a piece. People talk about the Republicans are holding the country hostage. That's democracy, right? You leverage your political power for a political result. Something the Democrats refuse to do, and they refuse to do it because most of what they say they want to do, they don't actually want to do. Those are just carrots they dangle in front of their dumb as dog shit voters to get them to come vote for them. They don't actually care about any of it. They don't actually plan on giving you health care. They don't actually plan on giving you free education. So they're never going to take that kind of a stand on those issues. These Republicans, love them, hate them, whatever, they actually mean this shit. So they actually, at least some of them do, and they will actually leverage their power to get these things done. And they also, again, whether you agree with their politics or not, they actually pay attention to what their voters want, whereas the Democrats have nothing but contempt for the people who vote for them. How dare you? How dare you not vote for us? How dare you question any decision that we make? How dare you question our lack of results? Don't you know we're fighting these evil right-wing fascists, blah, 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 blah. They're always going to throw that at their voters. The Republicans actually listen to their voters, and that might be because of something I touched on a post-duopoly show last night. However you want to define left. Broadly speaking, a lot of the people who define themselves as left are safety cult, neurotic, very weak-kneed, easy to intimidate, phobic, neurotic kind of people. And people like that, you really don't have to be afraid of people like that. All you have to do is play on their phobias and their putty in your hands.
Yeah, I mean, I also think the Republicans felt at the end of the day, if the Democrats want this war, of course they would sell out. So of course they would sell out the immigrants. Why wouldn't they? Right? If they really want the war, right? I mean, they want the war funding more than they want the Latino vote. Obviously, they already lost half of the Latino vote that they had last time. And so why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they just say, okay, fine, we'll take the wall. Fine, we'll make the asylum process harder. Fine, we'll deport some more people. Just give us come on, we need the $100 billion. Time is running out.
Well, but look, that's why I'm saying it really shows you who runs things, because politically there's no upside for them. There's no upside to going along with the Republicans on this. So why would you do it? Why would you do it when you're bleeding voters in every demographic? Because in the end, you want that. It doesn't even matter if you lose. You'll get a job with Raytheon.
Yeah, no, you cannot cross them. Right.
But you don't fuck with those people. They'd rather lose than not stuff money in the pockets of the military contractors. They will do anything to work the will of these arms manufacturers. Also, something Chris Hedges got into in America the Farewell Tour is those are the last manufacturing jobs left in America. Right. That's something that in these parts of the country we don't even think about it, because we don't have missile plants in New York. But they do in a lot of parts of the country that would close down if they don't approve this kind of funding. But I think the bigger part of it is just that's it. This is what Eisenhower warned about, and we're here. Those people run the country to the degree that the Democrats are prepared to lose the election by adopting policies that are going to be impossible for them to defend sooner than to stop a war. And it's just sick. say what you want about the Republicans, man. They have balls. Democrats have no balls.
Well, because they
like
know.
the base has no balls. The actual vote. I mean, I'm singing your song here. The Democratic voters are just garbage. So they never have to fear them. They never have to worry about what their voters are going to do to them.
Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely true, broadly speaking. In this case, I think the Republicans probably felt especially confident that if they held out for the border funding, they would get it, because they know these are the Democrats, man. They're in the pockets of the military-industrial complex. They're not going to take a principled stand for immigration if it means ending World War III. They're put there to start World War III. They're going to get World War III. They're not going to let a little border security get in the way of that. Right.
Well, but they will, as you saw with the Kevin McCarthy thing, which a lot of people who argued for force the vote pointed at that and said, see, that's what a determined minority can do to leverage their power.
Exactly.
If they want to, but there are no Democrats who will actually do that. There are no Democrats that will actually go down that road all the way to the end. They'll always blink. We saw it with the infrastructure bill. Remember, there was no way if they decouple it, we're not voting for it. Then all of a sudden, we're going to take a leap of faith that this fucking piece of human shit that locked up 2 generations of black men is going to be a good faith actor in these negotiations.
Right, and bring us the votes from Manchin. Yeah, right. That's a real concept. We're going to take a leap of faith. Joe Biden told me he could get Manchin and Sinema to say yes. Yeah, right.
Right.
Come on. That's not what they thought. All right. Rift Scythe. Godzilla -1 is the best one.
Why don't you do Amanda will love that. Why don't you go do that for your birthday and then we can review it.
Yeah. Did you see it yet?
Not yet, but I think we should both go see it and we should cover it. Since you like monster movies.
I do like monster movies.
It'll be a rare opportunity for us to both cover pop culture enthusiastically.
Yeah. I believe that would be a fun time for sure. Folks, you can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents and help support this program. We appreciate everybody who has signed up. We are knocking on the door of 480 paid members, which means we are getting close to that 500 mark, at which point we will add a 4th weekly stream. So you can help get us there tonight. That's how close we are. Patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can also go to DoDissidents.substack.com and sign up. Perks are the same across the board. You get your name up in lights here on the show credits. You also get call-in access to our Sunday evening post-show Q&As, as well as access to our supporter-exclusive live streams, which we do uncensored over on Rumble. If you're watching on Rumble now, you can hit that join button underneath the screen. That's our locals page. Everybody else can go to dodissidents.locals.com and sign up there. Patreon, Substack, locals, perks are the same across the board, so it's dealer's choice, whichever you prefer. But when you sign up, you do get access to those aforementioned perks. Now, we are having our supporter stream, our first supporter stream of December, tomorrow. That's Thursday the 14th at 10 a.m. Eastern, a morning show. We are splitting it. We're doing one matinee show and one evening show per month for the patrons, since we do have quite a few overseas patrons who can't really watch when we go on at 8 Eastern, so we'll split it. So we try to make everybody happy regarding that. But tomorrow we're on at 10 a.m. on Rumble. Now, as I mentioned, because of the Rumble outage on Tuesday, we had to postpone the supporter stream from Tuesday to Thursday. So what we have done to make sure that does not happen again, meaning we don't have to cancel a show again. Obviously, the Rumble outages are beyond our control. But we did establish a backup, a fail-safe to that. So if you are a Patreon member or a Substack member or a Locals member, you already got a notification about this. But we sent out an email to everybody yesterday with an invitation to a private Facebook group set up for paid members of this show. And that Facebook group is where we will run a backup stream alongside the Rumble live stream, so that in case there is a problem with the Rumble stream, you guys can go over to that private Facebook page and watch in there, and you can comment. You know, it's kind of weird. You if you don't use Facebook much anymore, it'll be like a blast from the past. But that is just set up as a backup because we can't have it again where we schedule a show, we're ready to do it, the audience is filing in, and we can't do it. Russell and I are two men of the stage. There's very little we hate more than having to cancel a show. We are very much the show must go on type of guys. And so the Facebook group, you got a link to it in your email. If you click that and you hit join group, I will then admit you to the group, and you have that as a backup. I know a few of you guys were like, well, fuck Facebook. I don't want to join Facebook. All right, you don't have to join it. In all likelihood, we'll never need it. Knock on wood. We hope to never need it. We've done well over 100 Rumble live streams with no problem, so hopefully this is unnecessary. But in the rare event that it is necessary, we'll be glad that we have it because we can't afford to be canceling shows.
So they're going to have to come correct now.
Yeah, Tucker just launched a Rumble channel. So they're going to be getting a lot more traffic. So they're going to have to build up their infrastructure quite a bit over there. But that's the idea. So every stream will still be on Rumble. You do not have to get like if you hate Facebook and you won't get an account, you likely will not miss any of the action. And even if you do miss a live stream, let's say Rumble goes down and we have to do the live stream exclusively on Facebook, we download the video file and we'll post that up as an unlisted Rumble link and email that out to the patrons. So you won't miss the show. All the streams will end up on Rumble. And a couple of you guys have said, well, Facebook is a censorious platform. That's true. If we say anything really crazy, we'll just delete the video off Facebook when we're done streaming. Because the only thing that's really there for is a backup live stream. That's all. Everything else is still on Rumble. And people ask, why didn't you try Odyssey? Why didn't you try Rockfin? Why didn't you try Locals? Trust me, we thought of all of those. Locals, first of all, is affiliated with Rumble, so there's no point because when Rumble went down, Locals went down with it. Rockfin and Odyssey, I looked into both of those, but unfortunately, you can't do unlisted streams there. You have to make them available for everybody. If you do a premium stream on Rockfin, that's available for Rockfin members, so then you'd have to pay for a Rockfin membership. That wouldn't make sense. So Facebook is not the perfect solution, but it will do. It will fail-safe us against any technical glitches that happen on Rumble. Plus, sometimes we know when you're watching on Rumble, even if Rumble's working great on our end, we notice sometimes people in the chat, my Rumble's freezing up, my Rumble is glitching out or whatever. If you're having a problem with Rumble, you could always switch to Facebook now. You just have a backup location for the stream. That's all. So that's why we did that.
And check in with your shit lib relatives. They miss you.
yeah.
See what they're doing.
All right.
Check out their little I believe in science with the Band-Aid on their arm profile pictures.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that is why we set that up. That's why we set that up, and this way we feel comfortable. At least now, when we know we schedule a show, we'll be able to do a show. We won't sit down and oh shit, Rumble's out. I guess we got to cancel. That's not acceptable, as we say in the business. We can't have that.
Acceptable as theater people. We'll do a show by candlelight.
Exactly. We can't have that happen again, and so. That's that.
That's why we say, you know what's worse than no one showing up to your show?
Three people
showing up,
or one person showing up to the show,
because it's kind of our ethic that we have to do it, and that's just painful for everyone involved, right? Like they don't want. That's very awkward for them,
especially if it's a comedy.
It's very
and you're
awkward
expecting them
for
to
you.
laugh.
Yeah, that's rough, man. That's rough.
Yeah, for sure. Underhill, thanks for the 99-cent super sticker. Appreciate that very much. We got Warren Westell over on Rumble. Thank you for that $1, my friend. Has anyone checked whether the Rumble blackout was coordinated with the Russian attack on the U.S. Syrian bases? They have not. There was some word about a Chinese cyber attack.
I don't see why they would attack Rumble, though.
I have no idea. Like I said, I have no reason to doubt it. They were not forthcoming with details. So we'll have to wait and see if we ever learn any more about that. But hopefully that's a learning experience for them. You know, they're pretty cool. Their followers were pretty cool about it. They got a lot of love on Twitter once they came back. You know, people over there are very conscious of what that project is about. Like that is about building out a free speech infrastructure online, which is such a critically important goal. Like, yeah, it's frustrating as hell. Yeah, it fucking pissed me off when we're ready to do the show. We got people who made time to be there, made it a point to be there, and now we can't fucking do it. It's like, God damn it, get your shit together. But look, you just got to roll with it because we have no choice. It's not their fault. Yeah, exactly. Chris PZ, thanks for the $5. Russell, please chill with that beautiful and contagious laughter. My wife watches you guys too, all right? Like that?
Yeah.
Like that laughter?
Yeah. Tell your wife the last thing she needs is the funhouse mirrors of psychological distress that a relationship with me tends to be.
All right. Well, hope that puts your mind at ease. Super chatter.
So I clip that and just play it for your wife anytime you get worried.
DC, thanks for the $2. White House already agreed to harsher border policy. Yeah, that article was from yesterday, so totally would not surprise me. I mean, that's what they said they were going to do. Thanks, DC. Appreciate that. Henry DeShazo, thanks for that. I like that name, Henry DeShazo. You two are a riot. Thank you. I torrented Zelensky's show. It's meh. I only know about y'all from Jimmy's show. Super looking forward to the guest hosting. Well, thank you. Thank you, Henry, and welcome. Thanks for checking out our show.
We're mostly,
this evening.
I talked to Kurt, and we're both big bass fishing enthusiasts. So that's mostly what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to go out with some flies, some wading boots.
Yeah, they're actually taking a bus up to Oregon. That's where the fishing is real good. There's not a lot of fishing to do in Los Angeles, you know. So
we're
going
up
in
to
the Pacific Northwest. Exactly.
Yeah, just a couple of freewheeling guys and their rods.
Exactly. DC, thanks for the $2. This government committing largest heist in U.S. history. Yep. Thank you for that. Right. Brett Yoendo, thank you for the $5. On a lighter note, please agree on a karaoke song you guys would duet.
I don't. How about Born to Run? You know Born to Run?
Yeah, that's not my favorite Springsteen song.
What's your favorite Springsteen song?
Well, one of my favorite songs. I mean, I think Thunder Road is like one of the top 10 songs ever written. So yeah, that's my favorite Springsteen song.
Yeah, I like
that's
Thunder
a Hall
Road.
of Fame song. That's a Mount Rushmore song. You can't write a song better than Thunder Road.
How about Bat Out of Hell? We'll do Bat Out of Hell.
Yeah, that's fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Or
About
you know
Mac
what
the
would
Knife,
kill?
new
You know
little
what
show
would kill
too.
if we did Paradise by the Dashboard Lights.
Yeah. Didn't we do something like that one time? We did Paradise by the Dashboard Lights or something.
Is that
when Meatloaf died? I think didn't we do that? We did a verse from that or something like that.
We sang a little bit.
But thank you, Brent Yoendo.
That's why I'm trying to. He doesn't want me there because I think it's going to be like a second honeymoon. But we're trying to figure out South Carolina, and he's probably going to drive down there, and I want to go. Then we could do karaoke together.
Right, we could do karaoke down there. Well, we could do it in the city. They have karaoke in the city.
You'd never come down.
You want to meet in South Carolina? I can come to New York City.
Well, but you're on a mission in South Carolina.
That's true. But I'll be in the city again. Yeah, but the $64 billion question, J.A. Savage, do you condemn Hamas? Exactly. Thank you for the $4.99. All right, let's move on. We got a bunch more to get to this evening.
Screen door slams. Mary's dress swings. Like a vision, she dances across the porch as the radio
There you
plays.
go.
There you go. Are we going to get a copyright flag for that?
Yeah, I don't think it was good enough.
Probably not.
Yeah. If we do, I'll cut it out. That'll be a tragedy. All right, let's keep going. Glenn Greenwald, friend of the show now, we can say. That's kind of exciting. Glenn Greenwald has been removed from TikTok. Yeah.
Because as you may know, Glenn has won every award that they give to journalists in this country, except the ones in small towns that local papers give.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Every major award, as he will say.
Every major award.
In this monologue. But it's a good point because he was just removed from TikTok for probably the most ridiculous reason you can ban a guy like Glenn Greenwald for. So let's take a look at this.
This week, our social media manager went to access TikTok to post, and she got this notice. Your account was permanently banned due to multiple violations of our community guidelines, permanently banned. Our account was permanently banned, our system update account. The only thing we use this account for is to post clips of this show. When we appealed it or asked for some kind of explanation, they sent this email. Thank you for contacting TikTok. We understand how important your account is to you. After further review, your account will remain permanently banned due to a violation of our integrity and authenticity policy. Please note that our community guidelines apply to both public and private videos, and that was it. We could not get any kind of an answer on why it is that our account is banned, but we know that it's permanently banned. We can't get an answer why. I hope this forever debunks this notion that the people controlling the censorship decisions of TikTok are the Chinese Communist Party. They have turned over, TikTok has, these decisions to the U.S. security state, just like the U.S. security state influences and controls the censorship decisions of Facebook and Google and in the pre-Musk era of Twitter. Because they have used this threat to ban TikTok as a way to say, the only way we're going to let you stay is if you censor the things we want. This also shows, by the way, imagine if we had the show and there was no Rumble. No platform that said to us, we're going to guarantee you the right of free speech. And we were dependent on big tech, on Google's YouTube, on Instagram owned by Facebook, on TikTok. Do you see what a stranglehold there is on free speech in the West? Do you see this? Say what you want about our show and my views, but our reporting is extremely fact-based. I've been doing this for 20 years now. I've won every journalism award that the West has to offer.
See, there you go.
There's no journalist in the United States.
I won perfect attendance once.
You're right. Yeah, we won perfect attendance in 4th grade.
Next time we have them on.
As many. Maybe there are some who have won as many, but none who have won more. And our show, if you watch it, you know that we are very careful to adhere to facts, usually facts that are easily demonstrable on the public record.
Exactly. You're going to flag Glenn Greenwald, of all people, for integrity and authenticity violations. It's amazing. So I tried to be a good boy and let that play through without stopping and starting, but I want to go back to this
I
shot
was going to
here.
cut in, and I was like, Keaton is being on his best behavior, so I'm just going to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, we're on a roll. But the reason I was able
to
do that
here at the Do.
Exactly. Is because I could go back here and show you this graphic. We understand how important your account is to you. After further review, your account will remain permanently banned due to a violation of our integrity and authenticity policy. We understand how important your account is to you, but we are not going to personalize our response or assure you that there was any human element involved in this decision whatsoever. We're just going to send you this copy pasta boilerplate email about your oh so important TikTok page and say no after further review, which means not much at all. I doubt there was any further review. I doubt they looked into it at all. Your account will remain permanently banned. I won't get into this whole story because I've told it before, but part of the reason this does not surprise me, and perhaps it was a little more surprising to Mr. Greenwald, is because, to my knowledge, he was never an Uber driver, but I was. And I failed a selfie recognition check once. Every once in a while, they make you take a selfie to verify who you are so that you're not subcontracting out the car to someone else, which is fair enough. But as most people know who watch the show, my facial hair tends to grow pretty quick, and so I can go from being clean-shaven to having a little stubble quite quickly. And in my profile picture, I was clean-shaven, and I happened to have a little stubble on my face when I took the selfie. And I failed that selfie verification, and they permanently disabled my account. And I had to call these people 10 times before I got any lead into how to fix that. They would literally read copy off a screen. We know this is very disappointing news, but we're sorry to say that your driver account has been permanently deactivated. This is a final decision. No further action is required on your part. Now, 60% of Uber drivers drive full time. So that's cutting off 60% of your driver's entire income when you do that, because an AI didn't recognize their face on one selfie that you snapped from behind the wheel of a car. It was only after 10 phone calls and a trip into New York City that I finally got it sorted out. But I was told 10 times there's nothing we could do. Most people would give up after 5 times of being told that. And so the sociopathic nature of these tech companies is just unbelievable. Now, that's the best case interpretation of this particular event. He's saying this was politically motivated, and I can't help but think that it is, because integrity and authenticity policy for that show, I mean, that is I happen to like that show a lot, but it's a pretty wonky show, as Greenwald himself says. Like, we read newspaper articles for like New York Times pieces, and he tries to do what we try to do, which is we try to feature a lot of mainstream publications just so that we can't be accused of cherry picking some biased source, right? It's okay, papers of record, New York Times, Washington Post, TV networks like ABC, CBS, not because they're the most reputable, but because we know that if we can use that information to make our case is an airtight case. Nobody can come at us and say, whoa, where'd you find that at HillaryClintonSucksBalls.biz? Oh, what kind of news site is that? You know what I mean? So he probably feels the same way. I can't speak for
that
him.
one actually has a pretty high rating on NewsGuard.
Yeah, exactly. That one's
look,
actually
man,
not bad.
I can tell this Uber story still causes you a lot of pain, and you really have to look at it like one door closes, another one opens. If that hadn't happened, would you have ever discovered the joy of driving people's food around?
Yeah,
so,
right, exactly.
You have to look at it that way. That you got to deliver pizzas.
Well, it didn't exactly close. I mean, I was able to get it worked out, but I understand your point.
I know. You see my point.
My point.
You're at a higher end of the business where a guy who doesn't particularly like people like you can thrive more easily.
Oh, yeah. Right? Well, it's much better. I mean, doing food was a million times better.
You don't have any customers. You have no passengers. I think once I figure out how to stick the landing on this article, I might just send it to you and be like, Keaton, write the fucking last paragraph on this thing. I can't figure it out. My next thing actually, funny that this is coming up now. When I look at TikTok, and this is what made it click for me. I don't know who it was. Somebody did a piece about TikTok and they laid out the financials on TikTok. Like, we never got serious about trying to promote ourselves there. So
no,
like we messed around with it a little bit and then just abandoned it. So we never really delved into it. But okay, once I heard the numbers, it really clicked for me. This is like Squid Games. Like this is just people being encouraged to degrade themselves for money. That's really what TikTok is. So you look at these people who, downstream of TikTok make a living commenting on TikTok, and you watch these videos. Well, why are there so many people acting crazy on TikTok? Because it's what they're getting paid for. It's like these degrading game shows you'll hear about overseas where people eat feces or, just do these absolutely horrible things. I mean, not even overseas. We had a show like that. Actually, Joe Rogan was a host on that show. What was that show called?
Fear Factor.
Fear Factor, where people be eating plates of worms and things like that. That TikTok has kind of turned everyone into that. And particularly, it's turned young people who don't know any better into that. So when you see these people going on TikTok and doing what I call barking at the moon, they go on there, oh my God, I went into a bar and I got misgendered. It's for money, man. It's for money. They're trying to get that to go viral. You get a certain amount of money for prostituting yourself that way. You get the incentive is to act as crazy as possible. To claim mental illnesses, to just, degrade yourself. That's what's going to get views.
But that apparently doesn't get you banned for violating an integrity policy. No, this guy's banned for integrity.
This is what I'm getting at. This is what I'm getting at, because a lot of these videos are pretty sick and pretty disturbing. And that's okay. Like that doesn't
Right.
violate your community guidelines. Like they've had people on there who have been caught faking mental illnesses and they're still on there. Why doesn't that come up? Why doesn't somebody who never had Tourette's until they watch TikTok and all of a sudden they have Tourette's? Why doesn't that violate your community guidelines? Clearly the person does not actually have Tourette's. And in terms of your responsibility to the community, if you're convincing, because basically you've created an incentive structure that encourages people to act that way, and young, vulnerable people who are the primary users of TikTok are being encouraged to delude themselves into thinking they have mental illnesses that they don't actually have so that they can get that kind of attention on TikTok. That seems like an overriding community obligation to pull that content off TikTok. But they don't, because that's their bread and butter, is just basically kids acting like maniacs for money. And not always kids, sometimes older people. But to see something like TikTok, which is really like a Tijuana whorehouse of social media platforms. Like it's really, hey, you want to make some money? Come here. I got a way you can make some money. Like it's really the sleazy red light district of social media. And you're going to pull off, as he says, one of the most decorated journalists on planet Earth on the basis that in your fucking whorehouse of a platform, this very wonky, legitimate news site is violating your community standards. What standards are those exactly that you have there? Because I don't really see any when it comes to spreading social contagion and psychological pathologies.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just absurd. That's some sort of political hit piece that went out there. Greenwald got a permanent ban. Jimmy said when we were on the Jimmy Dore show that his channel got suspended on TikTok. I didn't know he had a TikTok,
and
but
what you're
it's not a
saying
permanent
about
ban.
Uber, yeah, there's no way that happened to Glenn because he's Glenn. There's no way this is just he got caught by a random AI. He's Glenn Greenwald, man. That's intentional.
Well, they could. I mean, it's not to say that they couldn't conceivably catch a big channel like that. They have in the past, but the fact that why would your AI catch something like this? Like, what about the system update channel would flag an AI?
Right, and the fact that happened with Jimmy right around the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but you notice the standard copy pasta email, no matter what, they'll never do you the service of actually like writing to you unless you have like a rep, which I guess at TikTok they don't. I know some big YouTube channels have reps where you get like personalized communications if a dispute comes up, but apparently not there. But Glenn Greenwald just had his TikTok channel banned, but this wasn't the only example of censorship that made the news this week. This is from Al Jazeera. Our social media giant censoring pro-Palestine voices amid Israel's war. At the end of last week, Thomas Maddens, a filmmaker and activist based in Belgium, noticed something strange. A video about Palestine that he posted to TikTok with the word genocide suddenly stopped getting engagement on the platform after an initial spike. Quote, I thought I would have got millions of views, Maddens told Al Jazeera, but the engagement had stopped. Maddens is one of the hundreds of social media users who are accusing the world's largest social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and TikTok, of censoring accounts or actively reducing the reach of pro-Palestine content, a practice known as shadow banning. Authors, activists, journalists, filmmakers, and regular users around the world have said posts containing hashtags like Free Palestine and I Stand With Palestine, as well as messages expressing support for civilian Palestinians killed by Israeli forces, are being hidden by the platforms. And you could see the video views. This is the graphic that this filmmaker submitted. You could see fairly good traffic, and then boom, just dropped off instantly. That is not an organic arc of viewership, obviously. Some users have also accused Instagram, owned by Meta, of arbitrarily taking down posts that simply mention Palestine for violating community guidelines. Others said their Instagram stories were hidden for sharing information about protests in support of Palestine in Los Angeles and the San Francisco Bay Area. Some also reportedly complained about the word terrorist appearing near their Instagram biographies. How fucked up is that? Just a little side note here, but it's worth mentioning. Back when the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment happened, our segments about that kept getting demonetized. They kept giving us the limited ad suitability when there was nothing at all controversial about anything we were saying. Right. We were covering a train accident, right? But the word Palestine was in the heading of all of those videos. Yep. And they kept getting demonetized. We weren't allowed to run ads on any of those because the word, and I strongly suspect it's because the word Palestine was in the title. And so they see that and they take it out. That's why you see a lot of creators, when they put Gaza in the title, they'll put the @ sign in the A, right? Or they'll figure out a weird spelling. They'll put a $sign on an S for Palestine. I don't like to do that. I think that's distasteful. So if you notice, I tend to avoid Gaza, Palestine in the headlines because it's not just about the money. We voluntarily demonetize most of our Israel videos anyway because we don't want them getting flagged or censored. And they tend to probably scrutinize monetized content more than unmonetized content because their advertisers are running ads on it, so they're a little more careful about that stuff. Right. So we just demonetize most of it ourselves just so it doesn't get fucked with. But how fucked up is that? That like you can't report the news properly because they'll censor you if you put the word Gaza in the headline or Palestine in the headline. But yeah, East Palestine, Ohio, almost no doubt in my mind that's why. Because there's nothing. I mean, those videos were boring, right? Not boring really, but boring by sensationalist YouTube standards. Like there was nothing at all controversial about them.
Yeah, I don't know why you can't just do this yourself. But if you read that whole article, there's a guy who created basically a generator where you could put in Gaza or Palestine, or it'll give you back a way of coding it that'll trick the AI.
Well, Alex Jones was in the news. Our friend Kit Cabello at Hard Lens did a video about Alex Jones. He put a 3 for the E in Alex Jones so that he wouldn't get... Like, this is what you have to do. It's so fucking ridiculous. I mean, how juvenile is that? And how... Not juvenile on Kit's part. He's doing what he has to do. Juvenile on the algorithm's part. Like, you're going to fucking... fuck with people so arbitrarily to make news shows difficult to do the proper way because of certain keywords aren't allowed to, earn revenue. I mean, it's just so absurd. And in this case, it's not just a matter of monetization. They're actually saying that posts that actually mention the word Palestine violate community guidelines. In a post on X on October 15th, Meta spokesperson Andy Stone blamed the reduced reach of posts on a bug. This bug affected accounts equally around the globe and had nothing to do with the subject matter of the content, and we fixed it as quickly as possible, Stone wrote. Yeah, I'm sure that a clip of Matt Taibbi speculating that Elon Musk had multiple personality disorder, which is what he said on our show, and we clipped that for Twitter thinking people might be interested to know that. I'm sure it's a total accident that got like no reach at all. Like almost no one
they
saw
throttled that right away.
Yeah,
and you could see when you dropped it before they throttled it, it right away got a few hundred, and then they caught it,
and then it just flatlined
and clamped down on it.
Yeah, just like that graph, just like just like this, right?
Yep,
Traffic, good, boom, done.
Boom.
Yeah. When asked about the accusations of shadow banning, Stone pointed Al Jazeera to a blog post that Meta published highlighting its latest efforts in tackling misinformation related to the Israel-Hamas war. The post said users who don't agree with the company's moderation decisions may appeal. The BBC reported that Meta apologized for adding the word terrorist to pro-Palestinian accounts. Oh, that's nice of them. Saying the problem that briefly caused inappropriate Arabic translations had been fixed. Briefly caused inappropriate translations. Yeah. A TikTok spokesperson told Al Jazeera that the company does not moderate or remove content based on political sensitivities, adding that the platform removes content that violates community guidelines, which apply equally to all content on TikTok. A YouTube spokesperson told Al Jazeera that the company's systems prioritize connecting viewers with high-quality news and information from authoritative sources. The spokesperson also pointed Al Jazeera to pages outlining the company's recommendation system, hate speech, harassment, and misinformation policies. X did not respond. Yeah, Elon Musk told them, go fuck yourself. Elon Musk told us to go fuck ourselves when we called him for comment. Last slide of the piece.
Shine box.
Exactly. Civil rights groups aren't buying the platform's denials. This month, 48 organizations, including 7 AMLE, the Arab Center for Social Media Advancement, which advocates for digital rights of Palestinian and Arab civil society, issued a statement urging tech companies to respect Palestinian digital rights during the ongoing war. We are concerned about significant and disproportionate censorship of Palestinian voices through content takedowns and hiding hashtags, amongst other violations, the statement said. These restrictions on activists, civil society, and human rights defenders represent a grave threat to freedom of expression and access to information, freedom of assembly, and political participation. So this is one of those things. We've been very hard on Elon lately, rightfully so. I don't take back anything that I said about him. But obviously, the videos out of Gaza are getting a lot more reach on his platform than they are on Instagram and Facebook. I mean, you never see anything like that on Facebook, ever. And if you do, it's 9 out of 10 times.
No, you'll see memes. You don't see videos.
Well, that's the thing. 9 out of 10 times you do see a video, it's blurred out with the sensitive content or restricted for certain users. And the restricted content doesn't get pushed out as much, obviously, because it's going to generate less engagement, and Facebook makes their money off of user engagement. So this is a situation where Twitter is definitely better than the Meta apps.
Sure.
Because not only do you have censorship on Facebook and Instagram, but we did a segment on this a while back where WhatsApp had those very racist emojis when you type in Palestinian. Yeah. So, I mean, they're just horrible.
They had like kids with guns.
Yeah, kids with guns and shit. Yeah, just absolutely horrible. But look, this was very obvious to me from the get-go. Look, I said this. I called this right out of the gate. And the reason I tell that Uber story so often is because that's how I know. Because I know how these tech companies work. I know the ethos. They are not run by human beings with any sense of empathy or social responsibility. They are run by guys who thought, what do I have to do to get rich in my sweatpants and never leave my condo? Like that's the mentality. And they'll do whatever's easiest, right? And if that means, censoring certain content that's going to get them in hot water with advertisers, fuck it. They got millions of people, as Russell said in the last segment, millions of people willing to yuck it up for the camera to get some eyeballs 30, 60 seconds at a time. They don't need this content. That's what makes this a very precarious job. As much as we love it and we're not complaining, like I said, anybody who does well enough to earn any kind of living at this has no right to complain. We're not complaining. But what's precarious about it is that these tech platforms don't need shit talkers like us. They got sports shows, they got unboxing videos, they got movie reviews, they got a million fucking things that don't shake the boat, that don't rock the boat, that don't cause any problems with anybody. At the end of the day, what do they need us for?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So I think Glenn, he brought it up to make one point, but I would make another. He said, well, this proves anyone who thinks that the Chinese are making decisions about TikTok content, that's ridiculous. I think he's missing part of this, though. I think because he did kind of get into that, to be fair, because its owner is in China, and because at one point the Republicans were making a lot of noise about banning TikTok. They are, it seems, most prepared to just ban people very quickly that might get them any kind of negative feedback. So on that level, it looks, at least right now, it looks like they're ending up being the most censorious.
Right.
Because I haven't seen any of the other platforms really shut anybody with prominence down like that, only TikTok, because I think TikTok is particularly sensitive to getting blowback from the American security state. With some of these other platforms like YouTube,
I buy that.
It's an interesting question. They don't need anyone individually. But in the end, these companies are looking at the bottom line. collectively, as a policy, do they keep the news segment on because collectively it does make them a fair amount of money? It does make a fair amount of money for the shareholders? Maybe. At the same time, you also got to remember a lot of these Silicon Valley guys, at the end of the day, they're in their heart, they're libertarians who don't really want to cooperate with the government except under pressure. So as much as we want to always cast these people as, faceless figures of evil, yeah, I mean, they might want to keep this stuff on. Like, will they, if they get their arm twisted? No.
Yeah, because I think more than anything, they don't want to work. They don't want a headache. They don't want a problem.
Yeah,
right?
but philosophically, if you look at the tack that Zuckerberg took before they broke him, yeah, man, like philosophically,
well, sure.
he would like to just make it a free speech platform.
Well, yeah, because the easiest thing to do is nothing. The easiest thing to do is sit back and let everybody say what they want and watch what they want and keep the ad money coming in. The easiest thing to do is nothing. Once they make it clear you have to do something or they'll shut you down, then they say, okay, well, what's the easiest way to do something? Let's just have a bunch of AI censor bots go around, sniff out keywords they don't like, and shit can people over it. Then they'll send an appeal email, and we'll hit a button, and we'll send them some copy pasta about why, unfortunately, the ruling stands. Like, at the end of the day, yeah, you're right. I'm not saying these people are ideologically committed to censorship. I don't think they are. I think they are committed to working as little as possible and making as much money for as little work as they can do. And if complying with these draconian censorship demands is what gets them there, they're totally willing to do that. They have no bones about doing that. Yeah.
Sure. But I don't see any reason, as Jimmy pointed out at one point, Google is the richest company in the history of the world. They don't need us.
Right.
So the only reason I could see that we're still here is there may be some element of ideological disposition towards platforming things like this, because why else do it? And again, I mean, individually, they're not going to miss any one of us, but collectively, it probably would somewhat affect the bottom line to get rid of all of us. So that becomes a question of what kind of policy do you want to set. If you don't want to get rid of everybody, then it gets down into the weeds of what your policies are and who you get rid of and why.
All right, let's take some super chats. Al Gore is up next. Al Gore, you're on deck. Get ready. Special guest Al Gore be joining us at 9:30 tonight. No, just kidding. Yeah, Dave Dillery.
That would be funny.
That'd be funny. Thanks for the $5. The military-industrial congressional complex is how that term was originally phrased. So said Kurt Metzger. Thank you, Dave. I hadn't heard that.
No, that's not. No, in Eisenhower's speech, he said,
I mean, maybe
people were saying it before his speech, but his speech, he definitely says military-industrial.
Yeah, it's just those three. Long story short, pardon me. Thanks for the $2. Remember, there is a site BitChute to post. Interesting. Yeah. Did you tell me about that before? Somebody told me about that. It may have been you. Long story short. But thanks for the chat. I'll keep that in mind. Mike, thanks for the $20. Took the night off from work to get to watch the live. You guys are great. Oh, well, thank you, Mike. That's very flattering. I hope we're making it worth your while.
Grazie.
I hope we're doing well for you. I hope you consider it time well spent. Marvin Vargas, thanks for the $2. Amalekites appreciate you. Rabbi Schneerson, mad at you. Thank you, Marvin.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah, I bet. Hear from that guy. Guy's a mouthful. J.A. Savage, thanks for the $1.99. Sing a duet of 500 Miles by the Proclaimers. Thank you, Jay. Well, we got some karaoke recommendations here for us. We were at 666. How
about Mama Tried? You know Mama Tried? I like to do that one at karaoke.
Which one?
You know Mama Tried?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the words, but I can learn them. I know the melody. We're at 666 likes on YouTube, by the way, so why don't you take care of that?
Snap.
Yes, indeed.
Well, you know what else we hit before?
What's that?
Oh, we're still... Oh, no, now we went up. We were at 25,666 subscribers. So.
Oh, wow.
We're gonna... If, knock on wood, God willing, If we ever hit 66,666, we're going to have a big party for all the subscribers or something.
Yeah, God willing. That's right. That's
God
right.
willing, knock on wood.
Warren Westell lives on. Thanks for the $1. My original Rumble channel, Warren Westell, was shut down. Thus,
Really?
Warren Westell lives on. Rumble is not the great panacea people think it is. Well, did you have a Rumble channel or a chat account? Do you actually post videos?
Yeah, but you can't post naked pictures of Peter Thiel on his channel.
Just kidding, Warren Westell. But you had an account or did you actually post videos? If you actually have, if you get a channel back up, send us the link. I'll check it out. Alrighty, you've got a few more super chats we'll get to in a little bit, but we got some more segments to do this evening. COP28. That's right, COP28 was last week. Now, I had not heard of these COP28, COP27 conferences. I always assumed COP28 was the male stripper at Anna Kasparian's bachelorette party. But apparently COP28 is a global conference of very environmentally conscious oligarchs, one of them being Al Gore. And so here's Al Gore speaking at COP28 about the problems of the internet and social media. Ironic, since Al Gore obviously invented the internet. Very famously took credit for inventing the internet in the 1990s. But apparently Frankenstein's monster is turning on the creator. So here's Al Gore talking about the threat to democracy that is the internet and social media algorithms.
Self-governing people, a free self-governing people rely on a shared base of knowledge that serves as a basis for reasoning together collectively. But if you have social media that is dominated by algorithms that pull people down these rabbit holes that are a bit like pitcher plants, these algorithms, they are the digital equivalent of AR-15s. They ought to be banned. They really ought to be banned. It's an abuse of the public forum. But when people are pulled down these rabbit holes, you know what's at the bottom of the rabbit hole? That's where the echo chamber is. And if you spend too much time in the echo chamber, what's weaponized is another form of AI, not artificial intelligence, artificial insanity. I'm serious.
You're Al Gore speaking at, I guess, the 28th Global Environmental Conference, and you're cautioning people against echo chambers. Yeah, right? Like
where the fuck did you get the balls?
As if this room is not a giant echo chamber. But more importantly, I want to play the first part of this one more time, just so we can get something, because there's a bit of translation I would just like to do for the audience.
A free self-governing people rely on a shared base of knowledge that serves as a basis for reasoning together collectively.
Okay, so what he means by that is an easily controlled population of brainwashed automatons must get their information from a handful of government-approved, corporate media sources. That's what that means. And then he puts a button on it with the rest of this.
But if you have social media that is dominated by algorithms that pull people down these rabbit holes that are a bit like pitcher plants, these algorithms, they are the digital equivalent of AR-15s.
Okay, so what that means is that if people start sharing information and ideas on their own and create their own independent media channels like this, or even if you're smaller, even if you're just a user on a social media platform, when ordinary people start sharing their own ideas amongst themselves, the narratives from those aforementioned government-approved corporate media outlets get diluted to the point where no one buys into them anymore. And that's a threat to democracy, even though that last thing I described is actual democracy. This is actually a contempt for democracy that he's expressing here. Yeah.
Of course. No, their idea of democracy, that when I was in Venice in September and they described their government, that really a bell went off. Because I never really delved into the history of the Venetian Republic. Yeah, they had democracy among an oligarchy. They had
Right.
elections among the leading citizens, but that's it. And that was their idea of democracy. That's the idea of democracy that our ruling classes have, whether they're on the right, whether they're on the left, whether it's Al Gore, whether it's Jeb Bush. They believe that they should be able to dictate the terms of the conversation via their supplicants in the media, and the public should only debate and discuss within those parameters. And these platforms, whatever their limitations and whatever their failings, have really blown a hole in that model. It was very easy for them to make people choose soap flakes A and soap flakes B when they had control over all of the messaging. And the only other people around were, people handing out zines on a corner. That could not compete with the media machine that they had to promulgate the message of. It's what Chomsky talked about. They tell you that the New York Times is left, so that anything to the left of the Times is
out of bounds,
not out of bounds, not even something that worthy of discussion. That's just crazy, right? Now you've got people who are not on the approved list of narrative managers, with many more people listening to them than the managers. People like Joe Rogan, people like Jimmy Dore, people like Glenn Greenwald, people like Matt Taibbi. These are all people that in former times they would have unpersoned. They wouldn't have had a platform. You never would have heard from these people. They would have disappeared them down a rabbit hole. That is really the battle of this moment. It is people like Al Gore and his ilk trying to get back the control over messaging and narrative that they used to have by shutting down these platforms. They want to end democracy under the premise of saving it.
Yeah, exactly. Even if that means interfering in capitalism, right? I mean, Al Gore says later on in this speech how we have to adjust capitalism. And then you might think, wow, because Al Gore is certainly a neoliberal's neoliberal, right? Far from a socialist, Al Gore. But what he means by that is that we have to tweak the incentives because, as Russell just mentioned, Joe Rogan, Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, these guys are all extremely popular, right? If they were just unleashed and allowed to say what they want, where they wanted, they'd be 10 times bigger than they are now, right? But they're not allowed. And so if you are following a purely market-based incentive, there's every market-based incentive to promote those voices, right? I mean, a guy like Rogan, I mean, his reach is unbelievable. Greenwald, too, when he was on Substack, he was, I think, number 1 or number 2. Now Taibbi is number 1 or number 2, but those two guys were at the top of the game.
Right.
And so when a guy like Al Gore talks about, well, we need to tweak capitalism, he's not talking about socialism. He's not talking about giving you health care. He's talking about we need to distort the incentives away from pure market-based incentives, right? Because a market-based incentive would lead you to promote a lot of these voices that they obviously want stifled at best, shut down at worst. That's where the ESG comes in. That's where this whole new World Economic Forum model comes in. That's where the social credit score comes in, right? We have so much now. They have amassed such wealth that they can simply dole out money according to who they feel deserves it. That's to a large extent what the Russia-Ukraine war is about. That's to a large extent why Russia has been isolated through most of its history. Obviously, they didn't have this kind of thing through most of its history, but Russia is not with the program, right? They remained Orthodox when most of Europe went Catholic, right? They're not hip. They're not hip to the new shit, right? You got to be hip to the new shit if you want to be in the club. And once these oligarchs have amassed such fortune, they get to control who else gets to join them in the rich people club. They can just give it to you if they like you. And they can deny it to you if they don't like you. There's not really a market incentive there. It's not about selling the most Substacks or the most, videos. It's about getting in the good graces of people who have the power to make you rich if they like you enough. And Greenwald, guys like Jimmy, guys like Rogan, they're great at what they do, but they're not in that club. They're not in that club.
That's why, as successful as they are, whenever people say, "Oh, that's a grift," we've always said this. You want to grift in this space, you want to make those people happy. That's the grift. Right. Because there are enough lonely, elderly people who will give you an audience, and then you can get in on their money. You can get in on their PAC money. You can get in on their grants. You can get donations from them. You can
a lot of these guys have done that. Exactly what you're saying. Sorry to cut you off. Brooklyn Dad Defiant, Politics Girls. They're right. Paid people. Not much different than us. We could do that. I could stand in my kitchen and cut zucchini and talk about how it's important to vote for Joe Biden and how Pete Buttigieg is the smartest, most qualified transportation secretary we've ever had. I could do that very easily. I have a nice kitchen. Russell was here.
That tomorrow.
It's a good kitchen for that, actually.
In fact, we have an announcement to make about some changes we're making to the show.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the grift. Doing what we do, you're always vulnerable. You're always vulnerable because those people, they have powerful connections and they have a lot of social capital. And they press a button, you're gone. Greenwald said it when I asked him when we were interviewing him about Danziger, and he talked about Assange. He said, "Yeah, like if you're a really effective dissident, they will destroy you. They will destroy you." So if you're doing if you're setting out on this path of doing political commentary, if you want to grift, this is not the path to go down. This is the path to fucking Belmarsh prison. This is it's not the way to grift by any means.
Yeah, indeed. Very well said.
But I will say one thing. Al Gore means this a completely different way. Does capitalism have a problem? And we've talked about this before. Capitalism is not equipped to handle things that are profitable but damaging to society. And clearly, this technology is damaging to society, particularly to children. We know they've done brain scans. Sitting there with these phones is damaging the brains of children. Now, China, and everybody knows I am not a China simp, but hey, man, you want to talk about an advantage of their system? They saw what it was doing to their kids, and they said, no more. That's it. You're gonna get educational content, and you're only allowed to use this for a couple of hours on the weekend. That's it. Done. Finished. Capitalism has no mechanism for doing that. And as a result, you can never stop people from eating sugar instead of vegetables. There's just no way to do it within a free market system unless you're going to change that system. And we are looking at a technology that is doing severe damage to not just kids, sadly kids, but to adults too. You know, it's affecting everyone's attention span. It's affecting people's psychological and emotional health. And our system is really not equipped to address it. Now, of course, Gore doesn't give a shit about that. He's perfectly happy to have all that continuing as long as they can control the messaging within those algorithms. But a conversation about the fact that this stuff is fucking up society and it's literally hurting our children, that conversation's not being had because it would cost, the implications of fixing it would cost too much money. It would cost too many people too much money to try to address that.
All right. Mr. Perfect is perfect. Thanks for the $2. New member from Jimmy's show. Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Perfect is perfect. We appreciate that very much, my friend. Henry DeShazo. I love that name, Henry DeShazo. Love it when Glenn goes on Jimmy's show and they riff on each other with the insults and stuff. Yes, it's like a scene from El Camino. Yeah, I told Jimmy that in private when I met him. I said, yeah, the Greenwald, you guys have a good kind of rapport. It's very informal and fun. And I think we joked around with him a little bit too. He's got a great sense of humor, Greenwald.
He does.
He's actually a very funny guy.
Yeah.
The other Janet, thanks for the $4.99. Appreciate that. U.S. TikTok is run by CIA-funded Oracle, says Justin Watson. That's why. Something's definitely up with that. But thank you. Left less. Yeah. Al Gore still can't find Man Bear Pig super cereal. Yeah, we have. Thank you for that. We have 2 Man Bear Pig super chats in a row. Man Bear Pig must be stopped on super cereal. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the classic South Parks. That was one of the early ones. That was really early on.
I'm watching now the Streaming Wars 2-parter. Man Bear Pig is a central character in it. Yeah.
I haven't watched South Park in a long time. China Shill, thanks for the $5. These printing presses are like paper muskets. Yeah, should be banned. Yeah, indeed. Doc Durkin over on Rumble, we need a safe e-public square. Well, that's what Rumble's trying to be, so you're in the right place for that, my friend. Thank you for the donation. Appreciate that. Folks, please hit the like button wherever you're at. Hit the subscribe button wherever you're at. Hit the follow button over on Rumble. Super important. Thank you all very much for being here. Moving right along. Folks, you know college campuses are getting out of control. We all know that. They're becoming very unsafe and uncivil spaces. This is why the UPenn president has stepped down, and Harvard University president Claudine Gay is being pressured to step down precisely because of incidents like this. This was on the Harvard campus just yesterday, I believe this was. This is certainly from this week. This video is fairly new. This is from Middle East Eye, tweeted this out. Let's take a look at an example of harassment on college campuses.
You and people who wanted to murder you. Hi. Between you and people who wanted to murder you. Hi, camera. Thank you for walking through neighborhoods and making families feel unsafe with your terrorist scarf.
Palestinians felt pretty unsafe when Israelis occupied their country, you know.
I'm glad you're so proud of the slaughtering of civilians.
I'm not.
Okay, now I'm going to set this up a little better because obviously what happened here is this woman was walking through Harvard campus with a keffiyeh, the scarf, the headscarf on, and she obviously didn't expect to be harassed in this way, so she didn't have the camera on until she realized what was going on. So that's why it's missing a little bit of context there. But she turns the camera on when she sees that this white woman is following her. There was a phrase that our friend Nick Cruz coined on the Postopoly show last night. Zionism is Karenism. And that applies here. That was before we saw this video.
This is some hardcore Karenism.
This is some hardcore Karenism.
Well, and I promise you, this woman had the black square during the George Floyd protest.
Oh, yeah.
She hashtagged Black Lives Matter. I promise you this woman did.
Love is love, all that shit. Yeah. This is, according to Middle East Eye and the tweet that came from this, which has 15 million views. So I have seen it confirmed by 2 sources now because I didn't want to name a name unless I felt confident. But according to Middle East Eye, this is Eve Gerber chasing this woman down. She's the wife of Jason Furman, who is a professor at Harvard University and a former Obama aide. Man, those Obama aides really on a roll between Seldowitz.
They really are.
Yeah, between Seldowitz and this guy.
Yeah, you had the one over at Amazon who came up with the strategy of smearing
Jay Carney.
Chris Smalls, Jay Carney, as ignorant and uneducated.
All right, so now that we know the full context, let's watch this again. And again, it's good that it's subtitled. The sound is a little off because thankfully the woman is far enough behind her to the point where she wasn't a threat beyond that.
And just the arrogance to high camera, like what? I mean, that is Karenism.
No, I think high camera is from the woman with the scarf who turned it on and said high camera loud enough.
Oh, it wasn't
for her to realize that she was like fair warning, you're on camera. I think that's what it is here. Let's show this again.
Let's see it. Back and to the left. No, it was her. No.
Oh no, it is her. Oh wow. Okay, so it is her. Okay, I stand corrected.
High camera.
I stand corrected. Okay, so the Karen actually said high camera. Okay.
Yeah, no, the arrogance of that. Like what? You didn't think she was going to throw this up on social media and you think you can just behave this way? That's what I'm saying. These Zionists, they live in such a bubble. They just live in their own world, and they've been able to push this notion that anyone who opposes them is a Nazi. I mean, that's at the core of this. That's what makes these people think they can get away with this.
Yep.
Because they have been indoctrinated from childhood to see anyone who opposes Zionism as a Nazi. So who's going to judge you harshly for confronting a Nazi, right? That's what's going on in her mind here.
Exactly. All right. So now that we have that context, we'll play this one more time.
Between you and people who wanted to murder you. Hi, camera.
Yep, there she is.
Thank
Okay.
you for walking through neighborhoods and making families feel unsafe with your terrorist scarf.
Palestinians felt pretty unsafe when Israelis occupied their country, you know.
I'm glad you're so proud of the slaughtering of civilians.
I'm not.
For wearing a keffiyeh. These are the enlightened liberals, right?
Yep.
She's wearing a headscarf. And for that, she gets harassed, and it is assumed that she supports the murder of civilians. You know, if you display an Israeli flag on your lawn or an Israeli bumper sticker on your car or an Israeli lapel pin, or as we saw on the Post-Duopoly show last night, the cartoonish example of the woman with the Israeli dress from head to toe, it can be safely assumed at this point that you support the murder of civilians. Because Israel has now killed almost 20 times the number of civilians that were killed on October 7th. In fact, it's likely much more than that. And so who should be on the hook for supporting the murder of civilians here? The woman wearing a headscarf, or the woman chasing her down and harassing her, making the worst assumptions about her because of what she's wearing, right? It can be safely assumed that this Eve Gerber supports what Israel's doing. That's why she was so offended by the headscarf. So you support the murder. You support the mass murder of civilians. That's why I say you have to be very, very harsh on these people, rhetorically, obviously. Nonviolent always. Call them for what they are. They support mass murder. Yeah, right. No qualms about saying that at all. Richie Torres, before he blocked me, I let him know as many times as I could before he blocked me, you full-throatedly support the mass murder of children. That's not an exaggeration. There's nothing unfair about that interpretation.
Well, there really needs to be, if she's connected to Harvard in any way, this story needs to be blown up. It needs to be examined. They showed that woman who was in the Yiddish department last night, who was, when we were on the Post-Duopoly show, ranting and raving about how our duty here is to basically, I don't think she used the word propaganda, but that's basically what she was saying.
Make us look good. That's what she said.
Yeah, they fight the military fight. It's our job to enlist in the fight of words here. Give them 2 or 3 years the way they give military service there. This woman has a fucking position at Harvard. This is really just exposing the rot at the core of the system, and it's exposing this hypocrisy of the liberal class. That's why this is so damaging to their entire political project and why they're flailing around so hard. They've exposed themselves as the hypocrites they've always been. They never cared about colonization. They never cared about black lives. They never cared about any of this shit. It was all a virtue signal. It was all a way of asserting their superior tastes and ethics over the MAGA people, right? The unwashed masses, the deplorables. That's all it ever was for them. As soon as they are faced, I said last night on Post-Duopoly, and there was some psycho in the chat who misinterpreted it. I said, they only want you focused on slavery from the past. They don't want you focused on things in the present. Of course, I didn't mean by that that we should forget about that or that's unimportant. But I think it's very revealing of an agenda. If you care so much about the evils of slavery, we live in a world where we have more slaves than we have ever had in the history of the world. Do you see any of these people organizing to help the actual slaves who are actually alive now? It's all a grift. It's all fake. They don't actually care about social justice in the past, which is where they want to entirely direct your attention. And they don't care about it in the present, which is why that's the only place they want to litigate it. They do not want to litigate those things in the present because it's going to cost them something. These plantation owners from the 1850s, they're dead. They're dead. They're not going to come for you. They're not going to come after you. You start going after slave owners today, man, some of those slave owners, they have slaves working for their corporations, manufacturing goods that come over to the United States. Now you're getting into international relationships. Now you're
conflict
getting into
diamonds. You ever hear of a conflict diamond?
You're getting into exactly.
Is?
Now you're really fucking with people who are alive and they have money and they have power and they can come for you. And that is why you will never hear these people talk about this. And the way that they are reacting to a real case of modern day genocide, of modern day apartheid, it tells you everything you need to know about what these issues have ever been for them. They have only been an opportunity to promote themselves socially. They have never actually given a fuck about these issues, because as soon as you got an opportunity to do something about something that's happening now in the present tense, not historically, now, look at how they behave. Look at this. Brown lives don't matter now. They don't matter now. You're gonna verbally assault this poor girl. I feel so bad for this girl. Like, you can hear in her voice, like, the plaintiveness of her response, how hurt she is.
Well, because she's so powerless on that campus now.
Of course.
Because you got all these oligarchs threatening to destroy the campus if they don't take the side of the woman who's hounding her for wearing a headscarf, right? I mean, that they got rid of Liz McGill from UPenn, and now the president of Harvard is next on the list. I mean, they are lobbying very strongly for her to step down. It's unclear whether or not she'll hold the line. I certainly hope she does. And, everybody who knows me knows I'm no fan of Harvard or any of the institutions like Harvard. But on principle, you can't give into that shit. But, yeah, I mean, so this is happening in the context of Harvard really being front page news now. I mean, all eyes are on Harvard when it comes to this speech debate right now. They already picked off UPenn. Harvard is next. Columbia will be after that, right? All right, should we move on to Shantel Brown?
I mean, I am very surprised that Harvard's holding the line on that, but we'll see if that lasts.
We'll see if it lasts. Exactly. Algorithm says, where's Kill? Recommends Sam Cedar and Brooklyn Dad. Algorithm. I like that. That's good. Thank you, Where's Kill. John M. in Minnesota. Thanks for the $5. Do a search. Big meat and dairy delegates triple at COP28. As Gonzalo Lira used to say, understand what's going on. All right, I will search that. Always curious about that stuff. Paul McCalmont, thank you for the £5. Are you guys going to talk to George Galloway, the Scottish firebrand? He would be a great guest. I would actually love to talk to George Galloway. That guy's a character, and he's very smart. He's funny. That's a good idea.
Now that we have more than 16 subscribers, we can go for these guests.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world for us. Like, we haven't really thought
us on
through,
Twitter?
like,
he retweeted us a couple times, but I don't know if he ever followed us. I'll have to take a look. I know he retweeted us a couple times.
We got to start thinking through, like, people we couldn't have gotten in the past that we can get now.
Right. Yeah. No, he would be fun. He would be great. John Fries, thank you for the $9.99. The Japanese Garden at Huntington Library in Pasadena is a nice place to hang out. Also, the Cactus Garden. There you go. Little recommendation for Russ while he's in Los Angeles, I assume. Thank you for that.
I mean, I'm not even going to have a car. Someone's going to have to take me.
Someone's going to have to pick him up and schlep him around. Congress says holistic radical was included in the military-industrial complex when Eisenhower wrote the speech, but he took it out. Oh, interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Warren Westell lives on. Keaton, per your request, I posted the link to Locals. Thank you. I will check that out, my friend. Thank you very much. Pardon me. Kuznetsky Bassine says peace. Thank you, Kuznetsky. Appreciate that. All right, we got some more super chats we'll take in just a few moments. But we have a segment now on Congresswoman Shantel Brown from Ohio's 11th district, I believe it is. Could be wrong about that. She's from what should have been Nina Turner's district, but Nina Turner decided to run for Congress, and the establishment went all in for Shantel Brown, right? You all remember that. Nina Turner was up 50-15, and then the Democrats brought in all the big guns to endorse Shantel Brown, who, like I said, was polling at a mere 15 points. They had James Clyburn endorse her, Hillary Clinton endorse her. APAC poured a lot of money into that race to defeat Nina Turner, and so Shantel Brown kind of owes them big time, as you can see from this video. So, Russ, you found this. Do you want to set this up? I just wanted to remind people who she is, because she hasn't made a big name for herself in Congress, but remember, that's how she got there.
Yeah, actually, this relates pretty well to my previous monologue. Okay, so all right. A lot of you have probably noticed that the word privilege may be the most abused word in the English language over the past 10 years or so, and it's lost all meaning. You might also notice there's only one kind of privilege. They never invoke class privilege. Nobody ever wants to talk about that. But this, Shantel Brown here took the use of the word privilege as a just meaningless, hollow deflection to a level I don't think I've ever seen before, and that's saying something. There is some stiff competition for the absolute most hollow use of the word privilege I've ever seen. I think she's taken home the gold.
Let's take a look.
Congress, it's something. Ask you really quickly about enablers for a moment, Congress. It's something we talk a lot about on the show, and that is APAC. It has affiliates, and its affiliates, they've endorsed 109 January 6 insurrectionists. I know you've received some funds from APAC. How do you reconcile this, and will you accept funds from them this cycle, given the fact that you talk so openly against those that try to overturn our democracy but receive money from an organization that supports those very same politicians?
Well, their organization has members and members that support some of the same policies that I do. So I don't have the privilege of identifying who supports what. We get our contributions, and we are grateful for the support that we receive. But I will continue to represent all of my constituents in the 11th Congressional District to make sure that I am bringing the democratic policies, principles, and values to the halls of Congress every single day.
All right, Congresswoman Shantel Brown, unfortunately, we're out of time. I greatly appreciate your insights. Thank you so much.
Ha! Woo!
That is really, I mean, I don't know her very well. I haven't seen much of her, but wow, man. I mean, that gives new meaning to the word knee jerk. Like just say privilege, and that's it.
That's a safe word.
That's it. Privileges are safe word. Exactly. This was more than Daddy was promising when she answered the Tinder ad. That's incredible. I don't have the privilege to find out what did you say? What people's
of
beliefs
identifying
are?
who supports what policy.
Who supports what policies of the people
guy
giving
here,
her money.
Right. So what the guy here is asking her, look, this is MSNBC, and look, on an issue like this where there's a genocide taking place, whatever you have to do to get people against that genocide, do it. Like, I'm not going to, what's the phrase, look a gift horse in the mouth at that. Like, whatever you got to do. But what he's trying to do here is he's trying to tell Shantel Brown, hey, APAC is giving you money. APAC also gives a lot of Republicans money, including the extreme MAGA Republicans who tried to overthrow the government on January 6th. And so isn't there some guilt by association on your part from taking money from the same PAC that funds the MAGA extremists?
Right.
And she says, well, I don't have the privilege to know who supports what policy, as if the overarching, what are you talking about? It's APAC. It's APAC. The whole point of this guy's question is that APAC doesn't care who it gives money to as long as they support Israel, right? Like, that's the whole line of inquiry. And he's saying they will fund anybody who supports Israel. So what does it say about you that you take money from people who support the insurrectionists, basically, is what he's saying, right? Like, doesn't that make you think twice about who they are? Or are you willing to take a check to support Israel from whoever gives it to you? right? He's trying to ask her a question like,
Right.
are you willing to exercise some moral judgment in who you take money from? And she deflects by saying, well, I don't have the privilege to know who supports
Right.
what.
Right. That's a privileged position
I
to
don't-
expect her to know. I mean, it's unintelligible. It reminds me, I'm going to mangle this. There's that saying, it starts as a movement and they end as a business. This whole, it's not to say there's nothing to the core ideas that vocabulary came out of, but it's just become a punchline for amoral grifters like Shantel Brown to use it to evade responsibility and to have to answer any questions about how she's running her office and how she's running her campaign and how she's functioning on behalf of her constituents. Just invoke the word privilege. I mean, she's clearly gotten this idea in her mind. If you say privilege, they can't push back on that.
Well, the guilt by association tactic that the MSNBC anchor is using is something that I would normally scoff at. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you support, like, you drink water? You know who else drank water? Hitler. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a ridiculous argument.
Oh, you're a vegetarian?
Yeah, Hitler was a vegetarian. But in this case, like I said, whatever you have to do. And, it's funny, when I saw this, I thought of Katie Halper, because when she said to us, when we interviewed her last week, what was true, I think, there is some truth to this, that part of why Israel is losing support as rapidly as they are is because a lot of support for Israel comes from the, right wing of the Republican Party, comes from the MAGA caucus. And so that creates a cognitive sort of loop in the shitlib's brain. Well, we support Israel, but MAGA supports Israel, so does that mean we support Israel too? No, we can't support Israel because they support Israel.
Well,
they support January 6th. So the people who support January 6th support Israel? Right.
Yeah, it's not, if they wouldn't mind if it was the cuddly Republicans.
No,
like,
it's the
if it was
MAGA
just Nicole Wallace and Steve Schmidt, they'd be good with that. Right? That fits their worldview.
No, but it's
right?
Mike Johnson.
Right,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the dissonance comes from.
Yeah.
But what a fucking dingling, man. Like, look, she's far from being the only person in Congress to deploy identity politics, buzzwords, and catchphrases to deflect hard questions and scrutiny. But a dumber use of that tactic, I don't think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe that the use of that word wasn't deliberate, because the first time I watched it, I thought she meant like, well, I'm not hip to who supports what policy, but they're talking about APAC. So
yeah, no,
APAC exists. It is the Israel lobby.
It's her safe word. She fell back on that,
right?
Because she has been trained and conditioned to believe that as a black woman, if she says privilege in certain quarters, that will shut down any further questioning of what she said.
Right. All right, let's go to some super chats here. We do have one more segment on the evening. John Fries, a lot of Karens at the Huntington Library. Thank you, John Fries. He's your tour guide.
Are you recommending this or you're not recommending
I'm
it?
assuming he means not recommending it. That's what I'm assuming. DC, thanks for the $2. Appreciate that. Eva Braun Gerber, champion of the oppressed. Yes, indeed. Pete Sweet, Gore is so cuckolded to the system that just sat back and allowed Bush to get it on with his presidency. Yes, good line. I like that. Donald grabbing by the pussy. Trump, thanks for the $2. Spoiled privilege. Hugh white women are problematic. Yes. J.A. Savage, thanks for the $4.99. I don't think wealthy hedge fund managers should control what happens at university. Neither do I. Neither do I. Man, that Bill Ackman is really gunning hard for Claudine Gray. I mean, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. Like, anyway, we'll probably cover that on Friday because that's really in the news now, so I won't step on it. Louise Brooks, thanks for the $5. I so appreciate your commentary and insight. You both rock. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you, Louise.
We appreciate your support, Louise. All right. Rando Carl Rissian. Slavery is slavery. Russell's comparative to occupation in Gaza as modern day slavery is ahistorical.
I wasn't making that comparison.
Yeah, no, I wasn't making that comparison. And the plantation owner's family is still rich.
Yeah, I wasn't making that comparison. I would compare it to apartheid South Africa.
Which one?
Palestine, the situation in Israel. No, I wasn't comparing it to that. I was simply making the point that the same exact people who want to focus on historical wrongs, as we have seen now, when a big, glaring, modern-day wrong of a somewhat similar character has erupted in broad daylight, they're on the wrong side very quickly.
Right.
When it's going to cost them something, they're on the wrong side. That was my point. I wasn't comparing those things.
Sandy M, this one I featured for free. Keaton's having a good hair day. Thank you. That I'll
take
for free.
He is, actually.
Appreciate that. D. Marie, thanks for the $4.99. Just discovered your show a few weeks ago. Love the guests and content. Peace and solidarity. Thank you, D. Appreciate that. Henry DeShazo, when I moved from BFA to dorm at uni, every room had Comedy Central. Coming from a town where MTV was banned on the local, South Park was eye-opening. Indeed. South Park's been around long time. All right. What do we got here? Warren Westell lives on. You're both showmen. How about commenting on how the San Francisco removal of the homeless proves it's all a show? Maybe we will do that on Friday. Is there something in the news that maybe we'll look into that? We got a few more stories we got to have for Friday. Ernest Dowson. If you get 10...
are they continuing to or they just did that for Xi, right? I assume they just put them back after he left.
Yeah, who knows? Ernest Dowson, thanks for the $2. If you get 10,000 more subscribers, I might consider doing a spot. Well, thank you. Got a future advertiser there. I don't know what you're selling, but we'll hit you back when we get 10,000 more. We'll talk. We'll talk. Okay, we'll take a couple more. Then we got one more segment. I'll give it a go. Every good idea starts out as a movement, turns into a business, then devolves into a grift. Well, there you go. That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Rando Calrissian. The Shantel thing was a reach out of material. I didn't think, it's funny.
I don't think that was a reach.
When I first saw that, I thought it was a reach too, if I'm being honest, because I thought she meant like, I'm not hip to who supports what policy. But that's kind of impossible because APAC exists for one reason. It's the Israel lobby. It's one thing if you were to say like, hey, I don't know who among Democratic, what was the big thing? Future Majority PAC. That was like a Democrat-aligned PAC. It's one thing to say, hey, I don't know where everyone in this PAC stands on each particular issue. It's just a Democrat PAC. Some of them could be more liberal, some could be more centrist, some of them could be more pro-gun control, some could be more anti. The Israel PAC exists for the sole purpose of supporting Israel. I mean, you can't say you don't know where each individual member stands. I mean, you know exactly why they're giving you the money. She knows why. And not only that, but I mean, APAC was one of the main reasons, not the only one, but one of the main reasons why Shantel Brown is there. Because don't forget, she had to overcome a 35-point deficit in a couple of months to beat Nina Turner. And Nina Turner actually won the more working class African-American sections of that district. Shantel Brown ran it up in the wealthier, whiter suburbs. So a lot of that APAC funding had that pulled a lot of weight. And Hillary Clinton's endorsement pulled a lot of weight too. Because they
I
appealed
remember
to the same group.
APAC came in hard on her side.
Hard. Yeah.
Big time. That was some of the main support that she got against Nina Turner. Look, this whole vocabulary, and again, she's not the only offender. AOC loves to speak that vocabulary. It's this whole vocabulary of, I am a victim and I am oppressed, and your questioning me is furthering my oppression and my victimhood. I mean, why would you use the word privilege, which has become this very charged term, if not to deflect the question away with this charged word as if, well, if you push it beyond that, you're oppressing me.
All right, let's go to one last segment here. Let me see if I have. We have a Rumble rant here. I'll take this last Rumble rant. We'll take more Rumble rants and Super Chats if we got them after this final segment here. Have you ever been on No More News with Adam Green on Odyssey? He discusses rabbis, Talmud, Torah, and the plan for the Goyim, Edomites, and Ishmael when the Messiah comes. I did not know that there was a...
No.
I didn't know there was a streamer exclusive to Odyssey. I didn't know that they pulled that kind of weight over there. We're on Odyssey. I think we got like 50 followers on Odyssey. But thank you very much for that. All right, let's do one more segment here. This is some news from the United Auto Workers Union that went largely unreported. This actually happened about a week and a half ago. United Auto Workers President Shawn Fain, I am proud that the UAW International Union is calling for a ceasefire in Israel and Palestine. From opposing fascism in World War II to mobilizing against apartheid South Africa and the Contra War, the UAW has consistently stood for justice across the globe. Guardian reports United Auto Workers calls for ceasefire in Gaza, the largest union to do so. UAW, representing 400,000 in the U.S. and over 580,000 retired workers, makes announcement as military operations resume, as that pause came to an end. From opposing fascism in World War II to mobilizing against apartheid South Africa and the Contra War, the UAW has consistently stood for justice across the globe. That's the tweet that he sent out. A labor movement that fights for social and economic justice for all workers must always stand against war and for peace. That was the rest of the statement that they put out. They put out a statement. It wasn't just that one tweet from Shawn Fain. Our International Executive Board will also be forming a divestment and just transition working group to study the history of Israel and Palestine, our union's economic ties to the conflict, and explore how we can have a just transition for U.S. workers from war to peace. Ceasefire resolutions among local and national labor unions in the U.S. have been increasing since early October. The American Postal Workers Union, the UE Union, the California Nurses Association, and the Chicago Teachers Union, and several other local unions and worker groups have issued public calls for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. The announcement comes as the UAW recently secured historic gains in new union contracts with the big three automakers, Ford, Stellantis, and General Motors, and have launched a nationwide unionizing campaign aimed at organizing nearly 150,000 workers at 13 other large automakers in the U.S. Here's a little video from a UAW member calling for a ceasefire.
International has voted to join the call for a ceasefire. The UAW International is calling for an immediate, permanent ceasefire in Israel and Palestine so that we can get to the work of building a lasting peace, building social justice, and building a community, a global community of solidarity. That is what we've committed ourselves to, and that is as important as anything else that we're doing in this country in order to ensure that workers and oppressed people and poor people across the world are on the path to winning the justice that they so deserve. So I'm here with you all. I'm proud to stand with our fellow union members from the postal workers, from UE. For so long, we've been silent and we've been ignorant in the labor movement to this issue. And that time is over. And I want to thank all the rank and file members who have made this happen.
Beautiful. Now, you talk about a media blackout. Have you seen any mainstream media outlets cover unions who called for a ceasefire?
Nope.
Talk about a connection they don't want people to make, right? Like, they do not want to give any oxygen to that, because that's what actual solidarity looks like. And, look, during the UAW strike, I questioned the decision to do it as a stand-up rolling strike, a few at a time, a sort of slow drip of different strikes at different plants. I thought, why not just go all at once? I consulted with Shama Sawan about that and, tried to inform myself as best I could as to what the benefits or the drawbacks of that strategy were. Some people took that kind of harshly, but I said all through that I was never rooting against the UAW. I hope this guy knows what he's doing. And most of the rank and file seemed happy with the deal that they got, although they didn't get everything they asked for. They asked for a 40% pay increase. They didn't even get 30. They got 25. The 4-day work week went away. A lot of the transition to EVs is still kind of up in the air. Again, I'm not trying to shit all over the deal. I'm just saying we'll never know. It's a hypothetical. We'll never know whether they could have done better had they struck all at once, right? That would have been a less open question had they got everything they wanted. At that point, it'd be reasonable to say, no, it was absolutely correct to do it the way they did. But I never was rooting against them, and I tried to make pretty clear every step of the way that I was never rooting against them. When the United Auto Workers had Joe Biden come and speak at their little rally for the plant that stayed open, allegedly because of the deal that they brokered, and a ceasefire protester interrupted, and the dingbats in that room shouted that ceasefire protester down and said, "We love Joe! We love Joe!" That pissed me off. That pissed us off pretty bad.
But we did say at the time, this is a selective sample of people who would show up to hear Joe Biden.
Well, it was actually Jimmy Dore who made that point when either he was here or we were there. He said, don't forget, that might not be a reflection of everyone in the union. These are the union members who were excited to see Joe Biden talk. Right. It's probably the case that most of the union is not represented in that room. On the head. Yeah. What's that? Yeah, he seemed to have called that right because it seems like, well, it doesn't seem like, obviously, the ceasefire crowd had the numbers to the point where the UAW endorsed a ceasefire. That's a little more like it. That's a little more like it. I felt we owed it to UAW to do this segment because we gave them a hard time for the Biden thing, rightfully so. I mean, the people in that room, anyone who shouts down a peace protester during a genocide can fuck off. Like, I don't apologize for calling them out. But it does seem, thankfully, good on them, credit where it's due, obviously, that, the Biden loyalists in that room do not represent the majority of the auto workers. And that's a good sign. And it's good to see labor take an interest in this issue. And not surprising that nobody wants to cover that because we talked about in the early days of the Israel war how, like, it's not that we don't care about the UAW fight. It's that, like, the starting salary for an auto worker seems kind of low risk compared to what's happening in Gaza, right? And it's not that the two are not connected. Right? You need labor power to build a strong left that is capable of resisting these kinds of things when they happen. It's just it didn't feel like it had the same weight at the time. But now that you see that connection being made between the labor unions who are admitting, as that kid there said, we've been kind of shamefully ignorant about this issue. He's right. And I feel like I've been shamefully ignorant about this issue until, a few months ago. I knew more than the average person about it. It's not like Ukraine where I really didn't know anything. But I didn't know enough. I called myself a political commentator. I should have known more well before I did. But it's great to see that sort of consciousness brewing amongst the labor movement. That's a very positive development.
Yeah, I was thinking when I saw we're ending on this, you get a lot of questions. Well, what do you think should be done? Is this just nihilism? All right, if there's hope, that's where the hope is. That's old school. Labor standing up for anti-war causes and that kind of solidarity across different parts of a left movement. And the lack of labor in what has passed for the left ever since Clinton sold them out with NAFTA and destroyed the unions, that is a big part of how you wound up with a left that repulses most people. A left of the professional managerial class does not appeal to anybody who is meaningfully left. And that is a big part of why you have so many people. They focus on the people who flip to Republicans. They don't focus on the people who just stopped voting. There are a lot of people who didn't become right-wing when the Democrats abandoned them. They just stopped voting for Democrats and Republicans. They just dropped out of the entire political system. If you want to get those people back, which has been the elusive goal since we were all, or many of us were all Bernie Sanders people, that's how we're going to win. We're going to get back those people who stopped voting. if you ever want to get those people back, you need to rebuild labor power and solidarity with labor, because that's not only where you're going to get the foot soldiers, which is what the Democrats used to campaign with. Really, it was with labor. They didn't have that Wall Street money. They had labor. You've got to rebuild that on that level. And you also need to start to develop leaders who come out of that. Because when you watch Sean Fain speak, that's a guy that working class people will take seriously. The people who give off the PMC stink, those people, the average person does not like people like that. And if that's who your leaders are, if that's who represents you, if that's who your spokespeople are, you already lost. Because, yeah, the Republicans, they're full of shit. It's a show. They're in the service of, in many cases, the same exact billionaires as the Democrats. They know how to play it like they're not. They know how to play. Look at George Bush. You couldn't be more of an aristocrat than George Bush. He's all, yeah, well, God damn it. You know, and everybody's, oh, yeah, he's a guy you can have a beer with, right? I mean, the Democrats not only can't fake it, they don't have the substance of it. It's the worst of both worlds. If you want to start to redevelop a bench and a leadership that can build a real left movement, it goes through groups like the UAW.
Yeah, no, you need guys like Sean Fain, Chris Smalls, too, who was free Palestine from day one. I mean, he made it very public, and he said he lost some followers over it, but he was adamant about that from day one, as he should have been. And, you know, what you just talked about was mostly why I had such a strong reaction to that video that came out last month, where they're all lining up to kiss Biden's ass and thank him for doing what to usher in this deal exactly? I don't know. He spoke for 30 seconds at one of the picket lines, but beyond that, it doesn't seem like the White House was involved in the negotiations very much, if at all. And then this anti-war protester stands up and they shout him down like a bunch of pussy hat wearing shit libs. It's like, no, labor used to be anti-war. Labor used to have an international critique. Right? Where the fuck was that when we needed it in that moment? Well, it seems like when you broaden out your view of things, it was there, just not in that room. So good to see, for sure. John Freeze, thanks for the $9.99. You and CJ could do a David Attenborough-style documentary on Karens at the Huntington. Yeah, there you go. I sense you're an LA guy, John Freeze. I sense that's how you know all this. So maybe... good tour guide over there. Thank you.
Here we see the Karen following the young lady with the kefir.
Here we see the Karen saying, I told you to leave room for milk in this cup. Why is it filled to the brim? Paul...
Note the almond milk, which is far worse for you than any beverage known to man, but they have the delusion that it's healthy.
Is almond milk bad for you?
All that shit is bad for you. Because what you have to do to make it not taste like vomit is so artificial that it's actually much worse for you than just drinking like oat milk. Oat milk is like milk that you would get out of a fucking sewer cover.
Interesting.
It's like
I never thought about that.
It's full of just chemicals and carcinogens and fats that they put in there to make it foamy.
To make it foamy, right. You got to make it frothy. Paul McCallum, thanks for the 5 pounds. It's 3 in the morning here in Ireland. Does Russell think 28 days later got the zombie genre going again?
I mean, it was in pretty full swing when that came out. Like, that came out when it was really in its heyday. Like anything else, it's kind of played out now. It's amazing to me that they're still doing these Walking Dead spin-offs and movies and shit. I mean, who cares? Who's still watching that? Like that, you talk about Jump the Shark. Like that show probably went about 4 seasons longer than it should have.
Henry DeShazo, thanks for the $5. AOC let her mouth run too long during the hallway interview. She said, I yield back after her top-down diatribe defending Hunter Biden. Yeah, she tried to say that they offered him... No, she tried to say that he is entitled to a public hearing and that they altered the terms of the deal at the last minute. That doesn't seem to be what happened, though, because, I mean, I watched some just bland sort of news coverage of that, and all of the anchors seem to be in agreement, like, you know, CBS and stuff, and, you know, certainly they're not in the tank for the Republican Party, obviously, but they said it's pretty standard practice to do the deposition the way they had it set up, and then you would do the hearing in public if and when it came to that, which it would have. And that's what my lawyer contact told me as well. So it kind of did check out. But, yeah, I did watch that. I considered including that, but we already had 2 videos in that segment, so I didn't think it was worth hearing. But thanks for mentioning it. JLM, thanks for the $1.
For anyone who's interested, I'm putting this in the chat. These guys, Evil Food Supply, did a great segment on oat milk.
There you go. Yeah.
If anyone's curious about what's in that shit.
Will UAW shut down their General Dynamics unit? No, says Anthony. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate that. JLM. From the river to the sea is considered genocidal because that's what America the Beautiful did with natives from sea to the shining sea. Well, it's actually... Israel actually started that phrase.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that was actually Israel who actually coined that. The Peopled Infinite. Ever seen some more news on YouTube? What y'all think of him? No, I haven't. Seems kind of libby, but he dispelled me of Elon's real-life Iron Man genius myth. Y'all rock. Yeah, I have not heard of some more news. But thank you for that. Henry DeShazo, again, thanks for the $5. It's the age-old question, Labor versus Liberal, and there's no better in Australia than Friendly Geordies. Seriously, look him up. He covers all the hits. All righty. Thank you. Getting a lot of, recommendations
today, yeah.
Pete Sweet, thanks for the $10. A retired UAW member of Proud Leadership returning to our activist roots. Yeah, there you go. Former UAW President Walter Reuther, strongly against Vietnam War, died in an airplane crash in 1970. Pardon me, many believe an assassination. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that. What do we got here? Media blackout. How about the little country of Yemen cutting off the navigation routes to Israel so shippers have to go all the way around the Cape? Good hope. Israel is losing billions. Yeah, there's been a media blackout of that, too. In fact, we should maybe do a story on that on Friday. We got a few stories.
We should. We haven't covered that.
Yeah, we have a few stories that we're going to do on Friday. We're definitely doing the Starbucks boycott story on Friday. We were going to program that in today, but the Hunter was kind of breaking news, so it kind of forced that out of the rotation. Plus, we already had a labor story with the UAW, so we tried to mix it up a little bit. Folks, thank you all very much for being here. That's our show for the evening. Thank you, Jake, in the booth, for being here and helping us out. We appreciate you all. Once again, folks, patreon.com/Do Dissidents. Best way to support this show. You can go to patreon.com and become a member. If you do, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Over on Rumble for our supporter stream. And then back here Friday afternoon. Once again, Friday's show will be at 2 p.m. It is my birthday, and so I will be occupied in the morning and in the evening. So 2 p.m. is when we will fit in that stream for you guys. So 2 o'clock here back on the main channel on Friday. Patreon members, paid Substack subscribers, and locals members, you can go to Substack, dodissidents.substack.com or dodissidents.locals.com. If you're watching over on Rumble, there are 517 of you at Jake's last check-in. Watching over there, you can hit that join button right under the screen and become a locals member, in which case we will see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. Everyone else, will see you back here Friday, December 15th, the day I turn 37 years young, at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Until we see you again, whenever that may be, please be safe, be well. Thank you very much again for tonight.
Courage.
Please clap.